Yeah, no. So King Kong was the version I was thinking about was the 360 version. But yeah, you had Fable, you had, well, like I already said, Sudeki was also a game that was only out on the original Xbox, and it was a good game that didn't have a lot of attention. But it's, yeah.
There's a cabin up on that bluff there.
Credence's hide, perhaps.
I never really understood why Microsoft bought Lion. Talking about Fable, I never really understood why Microsoft bought Lionhead. Since Molyneux, he was a visionary, but he was envisioning everything wrong. So he really was a guy who talked a lot, but the games he wanted to make were never were games that should come out about 10 years later or 30 years or 20 years later, because black and white, you are God. You have that creature that you take care of. Everything like that. He was too ahead of his time, and he never really knew how to program the stuff that he was talking about during that time. So you had Fable with a lot of promises. A lot of people weren't happy because the promises that he made were promises that he could never keep. But in the end, it was still a big franchise. Got Fable 2, got Fable 3 also afterwards. You had Brute Force, a game that had a good premise. It was a team of 4, a bit more of a tactical game that somehow ended up just being an action game. Then of course you had Ghost Recon, that was simply on another level on the original Xbox. You had Full Spectrum Warrior, one of the greatest tactical games ever. So they knew how to do games. Some of those games were even Ubisoft, just to see how the mighty have fallen. And then of course you come to the Xbox 360. Greatest start ever. The King Kong game came out that I was talking about. It blew. You had to buy a graphics card that was more expensive than the Xbox 360 itself to be able to play the King Kong game. So you had the King Kong game had 2 versions. You had the normal version, and then you had to have an GeForce 650, I think it was, or something like that, or 680. Right, Watch out. You had to have the highest of the highest spec GeForce to be able to have enough VRAM and everything to be able to play the game on the same graphical settings that the Xbox 360 had. You had a Need for Speed game that came out that was the same. You really needed a beefy computer to even be able to think about playing it the same way that it did on the Xbox 360. Everything from Gears of War, Halo 3 wasn't really... I still remember Halo 3 wasn't loved by a lot of people. A lot of people complained about it and so on.
One less to worry about.
But yeah, you had Gotham, awesome. Especially the third one was great. The fourth one with the motorbikes and so on, they kind of messed that one up. Of course, Gears of War, all the games that we still... The beginning of a lot of games that we still have today, and we still lament that we have them today, because after a while, as we know, they just brought out sequels. They had the wrong Xbox head, I could say it like that. Somehow they didn't have a gamer. They had too much of a businessman, and that's the downfall. Was they saw Wii, then they saw how well Wii was doing, so they had a good idea to bring out Kinect and to destroy a lot of franchises that they had with Kinect ports. And the Kinect versions of games that simply didn't make any sense. The Fable Kinect game was just a joke. Maybe also it was the depth sensor and so on wasn't where it should have been. Maybe now if you look at an iPhone, what an iPhone can do and so on, we would be at the right time to bring out something more Kinect-like. With good tracking. But during that time, we simply weren't ready yet. And that really destroyed the Xbox 360 somehow at the end of its life cycle. Imagine, it was a console that was not the games that were buggy, but the games were buggy. Some of them ran with, especially during the 360 time and PlayStation 3 time, games running at 30 frames per second was already a wonder. So imagine us complaining now about, oh my god, it doesn't run clean 60. Yeah, go back a few years and see how the game were running during that time. Yeah, it's a little bit spongy. And also during the 360 time, I think it was the time where Microsoft tried the most to get to Japanese developers. They had Miyazaki. They opened Mistwalker for him. They had a 3-game contract, and I think he only bought out 2 games. So you had Blue Dragon. If you like Dragon Ball, you know exactly what style it was. It was a Torii. It was a Torii game through and through. It was also a turn-based RPG. Then, of course, one of my favorite games still of that generation, Lost Odyssey. Sadly, the game had the problem that a lot of games have today. It came out on an early Unreal 3 engine that wasn't great, very optimized. It had a lot of stutter. It had the problems that textures wouldn't load and anything. But the game had one of the best stories. If you have an Xbox Series S or Series X or an Xbox One, you can download it backward compatible and play it today. The graphics might not hold up, but I think it's a game that you have to really experience. So since not a lot of people played it, it's about immortal characters. You have a few immortal characters that are on a quest to find out what's happened, because of course they lost their memory, as usual. And then the one thing that they did really, really well is you had a bit like short stories about the 1,000-year life that they had, and those stories were so emotional sometimes that it really gripped you somehow. And it was one of the first games that really made me cry, the story. So yeah, if you ever don't know what to play these days, good luck. You should try it. Small warning, just the beginning is kind of hard. You have to grind a bit, but afterwards the game you don't need to grind anymore, unless you really want to be able to finish the hardest of the hardest bosses. Then you will have to grind a little bit to be able, because I think one of the last boss, after you killed the last boss and you continue in the world, you have a boss that can one-shot you after 3 or 4 turns, and it has so much HP that, yeah, it's kind of fun to get. Page 1. Province of Massachusetts, I can never do it. Massachusetts Bay, Office of the Governor, Sir Williams Phipps. Notice of sentence and execution. As his nearest living relative, you are herewith informed of the death by hanging of Jedediah Scudder, who I believe was your father, for the crime of murder. Proper trial he had under the principles of Oya and Termina, at which he was heard to express regret for the man he was and the deeds to which he owned. The hangman was fast, and the body was buried in Bristol without delay. The prisoner left a word for his kin. Please turn the page. Your servant, J. Smith, clerk of the court. Page 2, Boston, 1695. Son, they have got me as they have got my pa and his before him. They must not get you. Walk straight and true, and you will have no reason to hang. You must listen to your cousin, as I should have listened to his father. That line is straight. Follow it, your father.
Credence knew that Jed was hanged. He kept the news from Beloved. He was surprised by Jed's accusation, but not that Jed was dead.
Perhaps he was protecting Beloved from the pain. Nice view.
It covers all the main approaches.
Yeah, and Blue Dragon was just a queen. You can try, if you like turn-based games, you can try it. It's a little bit... Yeah. Some people would say it's childish, but I think it's the first game that really shocked people on how much a game can look like an anime. So the graphics were really great for that time. And the thing is, the Blue Dragon part is that every one of the people that you have in your party and so on, they have a Blue Dragon as a ghostly entity somehow that they can summon to fight with them. So you essentially have the guy, and then you have the Blue Dragon on top of him, and you have turn-based fights. It's more simplistic than Lost Odyssey, but it's good. And of course, the third game that they paid Mistwalker to do never came out, and then Mistwalker changed to do more of Wii games and so on, and do more Japanese games. And they lost somehow. I think after that they nearly lost interest in Japan for a while. They did have Otogi. I think Onimusha came out. Yeah, Onimusha, the game that is coming now at multi-console. One of the Onimushas came out for Microsoft first during that time. So yeah, Microsoft had a good time where they were trying a lot, but they kind of missed the mark, and since then they were a little bit lost. Just think about it. You had a failure rate of nearly 100% for a console, and the console still was successful. Of course, you can always say maybe if you didn't have the 3 Rings of Death, might have sold only half as good if nearly every console had to be replaced at some point. And in the end, it was also kind of funny because the original Xbox was known just for the hard drive and so on. That it had the hard drive, that you were able to do crazy stuff because of the hard drive, and then the console after that didn't have a hard drive anymore. While Sony brought out Blu-ray with the hard drive and everything, and that's also one of the things that people started to lament, and it was also the first time that you started to notice, more or less you could say, the haters as you have them today, because people were starting to complain that, yeah, of course, the game is out on DVD, it needs 3 DVDs. If Microsoft would have done the same as Sony and brought it out on Blu-ray, people wouldn't have to stand up every game. Was about 40 to 50 hours, or 30 to 50 hours. So yeah, it was really, really bad that people had to stand up after 8 to 10 hours or to change the disc. So yeah, I think you could install every disc, but you still had to change the disc anyway. So that was also kind of a weird thing. But yeah, if you ever have time, play Lost Odyssey. If you hate it, you can come back and say, hey, why the hell did you recommend a game like that? But for me, it was one of the best games that Microsoft ever had, and one of the things that showed that Microsoft had the right idea. Wanted to go to Japan, give Japanese players an incentive to buy the Xbox, but they gave up too quickly.
I started to think Jed Scudder had made it up.
Of course, we're also talking about the time where Sony, after the PlayStation 2, was so confident that nothing could go wrong that they fucked up a lot. Machevals, discoverers, upon the first decade of the Livius, translated out of the Italian, with whom marginal anivet. Yeah, I won't read that one. Sounds like I'm about to have a heart attack. An essay concerning humane understanding in 4 books, written by John Luke Gant. The first edition. Excels 11.5. As though not what is the way of the spirit, nor how the bones do grow in the womb of her that is with child, even though knoweth not the works of God, who maketh all things. Quam bellum F12 confeteri ius nefsiri quod efficas quam ifta effudientem nufare act ipsum tibi deflexere sic de natur. There one. Painted for Anfam and John Churchill at the Black Swan in Paternoster Row, and Samuel Manphip at the ship in Cornhill near the Royal Exchange.
Quite the library for a man who can't read. Wasn't the train band to be paid in silver?
So if people don't know, the problem with Sony was during the PlayStation 3 is they were so arrogant after the PlayStation 2 success that they really said, if we can bring out the PlayStation 3 without games, then people will still buy the PlayStation 3. Then of course they brought the PlayStation 3 out about $100 more expensive than the Xbox 360, without many games. The games that were there were really not too great, poorly optimized. And they kind of paid for it in the beginning, but I can say that in the end of the generation, they had a pretty good lineup. And with some games that graphically were great, even if they weren't really open games. Uncharted, all those games looked great, played great, but of course they were linear to be able to achieve the graphical fidelity that they had. Problem they also had might have been the same problem that Microsoft had with the first Xbox. They went with Nvidia, and Nvidia wasn't really known during that time to be a very, very open company. So with the first Xbox, Microsoft wanted to shrink the nodes and so on, but they had to pay a lot to Nvidia to be able to continue. And also to Intel, that's why they went afterwards with AMD. And they're still with AMD now. And Sony did a lot of bad shit with the cell processor, and when they noticed that it wasn't good, they went to Nvidia. And you had the problem that Microsoft had a unified shader. It was the first thing that ever, which not even PC hardware had. So only the generation after the console came out, or the generation when the console came out, also started to have unified shaders. And Sony had the old shader structure where you had a vertex and then and this a vertex shader and shader. Yeah, so it was really complex to work around everything. And in the end, when they found out, the games were good, but they still had their limitations. So then we came back to Xbox One and PlayStation 4, where of course Microsoft had to play Sony, and because they were successful in the first one, they thought, okay, let's bring out a console that is just to watch movies and has Kinect, make it more expensive because we have Kinect. Since we sold Kinect sold a lot, but I think everyone stopped playing Kinect after the first 2-3 games. A detailed business plan for a sugar plantation somewhere in the West Indies with full financial blueprints of main house and outbuildings, a map of the land for sale, a financial plan, land, equipment and holdings, land. Point.
A plantation in the West Indies. Planned down to the purchase price.
We've learned enough.
Jed was right. Credence is cleverer than he pretends. He reads and writes and plans ambitious plans.
A plantation needs a lot of coin. The silver connects him to the payroll robbery.
The cousins are close. Beloved could be tricking with us too. We need to talk to the Scudder boys.
So that one mistake was also the downfall of Microsoft that we have till now. People somehow never really gave them a chance. I understand it. The Xbox One time, it was simply sequels, not a lot of other stuff. Sony didn't do a lot more, but their games just simply had a quality advantage that Microsoft didn't have during that time. It was the price they paid. But nowadays, yeah, they try to better themselves, but people simply stopped giving them a chance that they should give them. And I think we are on the way to give Sony again the strengths they had during PlayStation 2, so let's hope they don't fuck up PlayStation 6 the same as they fucked up PlayStation 3 and the games, because they thought they simply were the best and nothing could touch them. As you can see now with Concord and others, and also the move that they did with Hellblade, with Helldivers 2. We might be getting Sony
They're
back that
arguing.
we had before.
See if you can eavesdrop.
We must confess! Beg for mercy!
I will not hang.
I can't carry the burden!
You can. And you will.
Soon we'll put it behind us. New Eden. Everything.
I cannot put it behind me! I bashed a man's brains in! I must fess it!
No! I'll say you stabbed Askell's man and killed you in self-defense. As the Father, so the Son, they'll say, as they hang your corpse.
No!
What the? Jed?
No one move, including you, Jed.
Thank God you're here, Mr. McRae.
Nobody bloody talk either, until we sort this out.
What are you waiting for? Are you not gonna take care of that ghost?
Credence, you knew the postman was stabbed. How did you know it?
Huh? What are you talking about?
I knew it. I never mentioned it.
Surely you did. You must have.
Credence, the Scudder boy.
The Scudder boy plays the fool. Plays us all for fools.
Sir, you have it wrong. I swear it.
Beloved feared he was like his father. You used that to manipulate him into joining the robbery. If caught, he would take the blame, but he failed. Beloved was not given to violence, so when he fled the scene, you followed the man and finished him off. You let Beloved believe himself guilty. The plan was yours, from start to finish. The dead man's blood is on your hands.
But I never...
Well, wouldn't you? You're no angel. You're no sheriff, neither. So what are you gonna do about it?
Credence. How?
Oh, don't act the startled fawn, beloved. You're up to your neck in this, too.
Jedediah, you wish to prevent your son from meeting his father's fate, but by haunting him, in time, your love will kill him.
I am here for Credence. My boy is good.
He's no killer, I grant you, but he is a liar and a thief.
He's rude too.
His father clearly loves him, for whatever that's worth.
Spare my boy. Punish his cousin.
Dead men give no orders.
Take me instead.
We might well do just that.
Anything to say in your defense, beloved?
I didn't know. I swear I didn't know.
My arse. He hit the messenger with a rock. He did it. You knew what you were doing. You wanted away. You wanted the payroll.
Rot in hell. You used me.
I shall rise above them, a great and wealthy man. My cousin by my side. Please, we used each other.
Credence Scudder, you and your cousin are haunted by the ghost of your Uncle Jed. That ends now.
He was no saint. But he liked his son. Oh, still let's punish him.
Jedediah Scudder, your son may be born to hang, and your nephew a manipulative murderer, but the fact remains. You are the lingering dead, and we have a job to do. They'll be better off without you.
If you want to say goodbye to your father, the moment is now.
I said my goodbyes a long, long time ago.
Son, let that make you a better man. I banish you.
Your old man was a pox. Good riddance.
I suppose that's so.
So very moving. Let's leave them to it.
So, what do we have the next? Oh, we still have 4 to go. Okay, so let's check. Waiting stance damage taken is reduced by 5% for each manifestation in cooldown. Damage dealt by NT is increased 30%, but damage taken by red is increased 15%. Nope. Switching to NT increases the damage of the next manifestation by 20%. Outburst cooldown is reduced by 10%. Yeah, this one is good. Leap triggers an area of effect dealing spectral damage. Sprint points cost of manifestations is reduced by 30%, but damage taken by red is increased 15%. Why do they always want to damage red? Spirit points gains are increased by 30%, but health points gained are reduced by... Damage taken is reduced by 25 while an enemy is affected by ensnare. Ensnare duration is increased by 2 seconds. That might be interesting. So if we go back to the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 generation, there was also one trend that started that I think is the worst trend that we have till now in gaming. And that is that for the first time we started to get millions and millions and millions of people spent on remakes. So that's when we started to have all the remakes of games that no one needed to be remade. And that trend is somehow one of the worst trends, I think. Of course, it accumulated this year with them remaking games from the previous generation that still looked good. Just added some shaders and then asked you to pay €10 for, or $10 to play them. The worst part is people pay for it. And so, like the Oblivion Horse Armor, that started the craze of DLCs. The craze of DLCs continues till today. And if you look at the at some prices now of DLCs and also in-game purchases, it might never end. We might just have
I get my hands on whoever did this.
set the foundations to always pay
Damaged the sign.
and start to pay more and more and more for each little item in the game.
Problem, madam?
Sir, I'm sorry, but we're closed. As you can see, we're facing some problems right now.
So, I believe you've got business troubles.
Yes. Business. I require the services of a capable man. I've been burglarized, vandalized, and I'm left alone. I need help.
You say your store's been robbed.
More than once. A thief has been stealing merchandise. And now Nathaniel has stolen the cash box and fled.
You also have a haunting. That's a lot.
Widow Ingersoll, I'm no constable, but in your case, I could make an exception and look into it.
You could? Well, thank you. I really do need that cash box back. It's not much, but it's all I have. My damned keys are in it too.
If I were to find out that ghost is giving you trouble, would you know who it could be?
A ghost? Why would you ask me about a ghost?
Hire a Thatcher and they'll ask you about your roof. You find a Banisher.
Well, no. If I am haunted, it could only be my dead husband. Old man Ingersoll lives in my heart, but I promise you, he does not haunt me.
Did Nathaniel steal your merchandise, or was that someone else?
I believe there were two thieves, yes.
Couldn't Nathaniel be responsible for both crimes?
No. He's smart. He'd not carry 20 pounds of provisions back to Boston when he could fill his purse with coin.
Who's this Nathaniel who stole your money?
Nathaniel Sather. Our shop boy. Salesman, really. He was Mr. Ingersoll's barker. Natty's been with the store a very long time. Or had been.
Where might he have gone? And why might he have taken the cash box?
We had words. He wished to try for Boston, I need him here. A promise is a promise. Now he's a promise breaker and a thief to boot, who took the keys I kept as a memento of my late husband.
I'll need to nose around your store. Your house, too. Do I have your permission?
You do?
I won't be far.
I'll get to work.
Very well. I'll be here.
Yeah, so it's just a ledger. I won't bother to reading that one.
This account book isn't too healthy.
Mind your business, Mr. McCraith.
There's a lock. I'm gonna need a key.
Oh, no. But I start to understand the moral of this game. It's very, very easy. Somehow everyone is Christian and that's why no one can sleep, because everyone is haunted. And the only native that we had got killed or ended. So that one was never haunted. Don't be Christian. Moral of the game in 2 seconds. Pay your debts. Trust Shaba. Ingersoll. Shiba.
Did you feel that?
It's close.
Anyone home? I'm Red McCraith, the Banisher. Show yourself.
I think we're alone.
Uh, 3rd of May, 1695. My dear Thomas. At Ingersoll's, I have learned how to run a store, how to keep customers, how to make money. Mr. Ingersoll was a pure soul, and I remember my mentor fondly, but I've been away too long. I miss Boston, I miss you. Life here is hard and cold. Moreover, Wilson can no longer pay me, and I fear I shall be stuck here forever. If only you knew how much I miss you. I'll write you soon. Please take care, Nathaniel.
Bathsheba Ingersoll said Nathaniel Sather wanted to go back to Boston. But really, he wanted to get back to his friend Thomas. We found all we could. Might be time to go after our thief.
Nathaniel stole a cart. Maybe you could follow his tracks.
Not a bad idea, Mrs. Ingersoll.
McCraith, over here.
Oh my god, I will never finish the game. So we have the hauntings, and now we also got some more quests.
Do you think perhaps the late Mr. Ingersoll may haunt his old store?
To punish Nathaniel, who broke his promise? Perhaps. I doubt it.
Also to reminisce about older times, and some people would say better times, but believe me, the times went better. During the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 times, we started to have one thing that is hated now, but somehow needed sometimes. We started to have our first consoles where you could have updates. And a lot of people start to say, yeah, I hate updates and so on. But before that, if you had a game that came out buggy, it was simply buggy for the rest of its life. It was never fixed. Hence, some remakes also that came out, they came out with, yeah, we finally fixed blah 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 that was in that game. The one good thing it had to not fix the games was you could simply go to a shop, buy your magazine, and if there was an exploit that they showed you in the magazine, you could use that exploit even 10 years later.
A malignant will is placed upon this, just like the one we found earlier.
We should find that ritual Seeker told us about. I've kept her notes about the hut location.
It's not like right now where games come out buggy or they have faults and then people exploit them, and somehow companies really think that they should ban people for the stuff that they literally fucked up. So they didn't test it well enough. They didn't care to test it well enough. They bring out a game that is unfinished. But if you find the exploit and you use the exploit, you will get banned. So I don't do my job like I should, but I punish you because I didn't do my job well enough. Don't ban people just because your games sometimes have shitty bugs. To be honest. But you have to get used to it. And right now I have no clue how to follow Nathaniel's tracks. Okay, I really find everything just not what I'm searching for. If I understand the game correctly, it should just be some steps somewhere on the floor, and then she hits it, and then magically we will know where to go. I'm still in the... Yeah.
Nathaniel must have had motivation to flee in snow like this.
Ta-da.
Or desperation.
Yeah, to come back to the games and so on. Let's talk about this generation. you think about it, this generation has been one of the saddest generations ever. The first 2 years you barely had any games. If you got games, they were usually buggy or not really a lot of new IPs. Exclusives. You can say as much as you like. You can say that Microsoft doesn't have any exclusives, but right now Sony doesn't have any exclusives. Microsoft doesn't have any exclusives. If you go by triple, quadruple A standards, there aren't really a lot of new IPs. Microsoft spent a lot of money. I don't know if we. Let's see when we will see that come into fruition. Then I don't think that a lot of them will be exclusives, like I said in the beginning. And I don't mind, to be honest. I'm rather one of those. I'm one of the people that says I hope Sony continues, and I'll just need a PC to play all the games I want. Hey, that's not what you're supposed to do. I'm supposed to do this. Then having 2 consoles, 3 consoles here.
Great! More fun.
In the end, you start to play on your console for 3-4 months, and then afterwards, you can buy a PC that will play the game 60 frames per second, higher fidelity and everything, and you don't look back.
Did we miss a few?
This is getting serious.
And to be honest, I bought an Xbox Series X the moment it came out. I thought I need it, I have to have it. My computer is not good enough. I had a 2080 during that time. And it ended up that if the game was well optimized on PC, it ran better on PC on my 2080 than it ran on the consoles anyway. Now, of course, with the 4080, we don't even talk about it anymore. And if I'm able to buy anything, any 5080 or 5090, and finally change my 13700 that I have non-K that I have on in my tower right now. Even the PlayStation Pro is a joke compared to it. So yeah.
Spectres have gathered around.
The one thing that
Why not force
might
them
be
to
good for the
appear?
next generation is that you will have a company like Microsoft and also Sony. Sony is using already a lot of Azure anyway for their cloud gaming. Maybe they will pay Microsoft to also use Azure to do a little bit more of the AI stuff that they want to do. And it might be interesting to see what steps they take towards the AI and what gains we have from them using AI. Yeah, that might bring forward a lot of stuff that we saw now from
Did we miss a few?
Nvidia and so on, with using AI textures and everything. And we shouldn't also be too strict on AI. Never forget that AI, it might sound like, yeah, people are lazy, no, but AI is the future, and you have people behind the AI, writing the AI, to be able to use the AI the way that we use it right now. And to be very, very grotesque right now. If you look at something like speed trees and so on, that has been used for years and years and years to place trees and so on in games and everything. We simply didn't call it AI, but it's the computer that decides.
Think you could take on a
depending on the
ghost?
height level, depending on everything that how you set up the parameters, it decides where the tree will be. Procedural generation is nothing more than AI. You give it the numbers, your computer will evaluate the numbers and set stuff up based on the seed number that you give it. Does it mean that someone like the guys who did No Man's Sky were lazy? No, they were innovative. Of course, 10 years after the game came out, the game is good. AI is simply innovation that we are not ready for yet. And if you see the leak that came out for the Xbox, all they were asking is for AI stuff. Sony, PlayStation Pro, the first thing they did is Pisser, PSSR. So to have AI to be able to make it better. The problem is, of course,
Spectre heading for
it's
that
still in the
court.
first iteration, so it is more or less as good as the LSS one was.
Sharpen up.
I'm kind of happy I put it on easy, damn. What the hell? Hopelessly underleveled. Whoa. Okay, so just to explain, I put it on easy because I thought that somehow they were damage sponges, so on normal I had a few of those events where they would lose about 1 HP every time you hit them. You change to Antia, you would have about 10% 10 damage, and somehow they didn't die, and you had 5 or 6 around you all the time. The only thing you were doing was dodging left and right, and I still died. So I thought, okay, let's go to easy, and even now you see that even easy is still a little bit of a mess when it comes to the HP that they have. So the game is great, but yeah, the fights could be a little bit different. Just 1 second. One call. Message I just have to reply. I'm back.
The missing cart. Abandoned. The wheel is stuck.
You know I'll not wish to bother you, mistress. But when do you think you'll pay me my wages?
I'll pay you when I can, Nathaniel. You know this.
You've been saying that for months now, and I'm struggling to believe it. 'Tis in the contract that I be paid. Pay me by tomorrow, or I must act.
You must act. Do you hear yourself? Go clean the back room and hush with your nonsense.
That's it. That's blooming well it. Take what is mine, I'll take it.
I'm guessing this is Bathsheba's cash box. Nathaniel robbed the widow.
He betrayed her trust.
Oh, a small review about the game till now. I feel like the game is underrated for the story. For the combat it is okay. It's just somehow... I don't know how they managed to make the fights so long. And I feel like the game is too long for its own good. They should have kept the parts that are good, like the hauntings and everything, and have a more limited scope about the rest. I feel like it's really like Vampire. There is too much to do, too much stuff. Oh god. Okay. Too much unnecessary stuff to do. If the game would have been tighter, I think it might have had better reviews, but even with better reviews, somehow I feel like people simply didn't notice that the game went totally under the radar.